Welcome back to the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv. If you're new here, welcome in. I'm so excited for this episode. And if you're coming back as usual, welcome back. I've been excited to have this conversation for a while now. I was just waiting for the perfect person to have it with. And so today's episode is with Mercedes Castellani. She is a life purpose coach and the visionary founder of Blisstopia. And today we're talking all about money and money mindset, having both income and impact in our lives and our businesses. So, Mercedes empowers women from all over the world to find their purpose and create wealth doing what they love. She's been doing this since 2022 and now has guided hundreds of women to find their purpose, create nonsensical wealth, strengthen the connection to their soul, and manifest their dream lives. She blends a unique methodology of ancient wisdom and cutting edge mindset work. She also has a podcast. I was on her podcast a few months ago called Blisstopia Podcast. It's a top 1% self-development show with listeners in 77 countries. This is an amazing one. You're going to want to take some notes. We definitely go through a wide range of topics, but so much, a wealth of information on all things money mindset and just how to activate abundance in our lives. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's dive into today's episode with Mercedes. Welcome to the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, founder of Eno Wellness Collective. My wellness journey started with yoga, which led me down the path of exploring healing modalities like meditation, breath work, sound healing, mindset work, and so much more. This exploration inspired my mission to help others find what lights them up. Get comfortable and curious as we learn from experts, teachers, and creators who are lighting up their communities and living an inspired, expansive life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm so excited to welcome to the show Mercedes, I've actually been on her podcast before, and now we're doing a swap, and she's coming here to the ENA community. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Liv. I'm super happy to be here with you.
Yes, I was just, before we hit play, I mentioned how, I've been wanting to have this conversation on the podcast to talk about money and wealth and manifestation and money mindset and how it's all interconnected. So when I saw that this was an offering that you had or something that was part of your work, I knew that was the conversation to bring in today. So I would love to kick it off. I know that you are the founder of Blisstopia. And so I wanted to hear a little bit about what exactly that is, right? What is your vision for Blisstopia, for the world, and just how did even that word come to mind?
Yes. So this word and the whole vision for my business, this is a business that I set up in 2022. And the word Blisstopia came like a download to me. I was walking around Barcelona, visiting some friends, walking around. So, when we walk, sometimes we get these creative energies. And I had like this massive download. It was like, it's called Blisstopia. It's for women. This is what you're going to offer. This is what we're trying to create in the world. Boom, 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 boom. Like the whole thing came to me. There was never a point where I had doubts. Should I change the name? No. It was this thing that sometimes some people believe that ideas choose you. And I think this idea chose me. And I gladly took on the challenge. So basically, Blisstopia is a word that I came up with or that was downloaded to me. We don't know. And basically, this word sits between utopia, the perfect world in which we would all like to live. But by definition, it doesn't exist. So that would be a world of peace and unity and inclusion and beauty and love, all of the things that we would like. But then by definition, utopia doesn't exist. And then there's dystopia, which is the place where we might end up if we don't change fast enough. If we still consume the way we consume, if we continue with war, if we don't understand each other the way we are doing right now, basically. So between this utopia and dystopia, there's Blisstopia. So there's this proposal in the middle. And basically, this world is a world in which we live in sustainable ways. We live in abundance. We live with love for one another. We love difference. We don't just tolerate difference. We love difference. And everybody's empowered. There's no racism. It's like this ideal world that we would like to live in, but by definition, it exists. And what I do believe is that when one person is in bliss, when one person is happy, we automatically have an impact everywhere around us. So we have an impact on our partner, our friends, our families, our clients, our coworkers. So by changing one person, allowing one person to be happier, that person is having an impact on their communities. And if we have more and more people who are happy, enlightened, in bliss, then this is going to become a better world. So that's what I believe. That's what I stand for. That's why I wake up with a smile every day, and that's why I created this business, Blisstopia, that supports women in finding their purpose in life, aligning with their purpose, and making lots of money doing what they love. Because I do believe that we get to have impact and income. So that's why I set up Blisstopia. We serve women from all over the world. And yeah, it's a business that it's booming, it's growing, but it's really anchored in this vision for a better world, really.
Beautiful. And I love that you said that, both impact and income. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And I know that you wear a number of different hats. You have your life purpose coach, your meditation teacher, you have your own podcast, right? So you have a lot of different ways that women are finding you and plugging into your work. But I know, as you know, as I know we spoke on your podcast about, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a journey that you take to get to becoming a life purpose coach, right? And oftentimes it's your own journey of finding your purpose and then, being able to share it with others. So before we get into our sort of money talk today, I would love to hear a little bit about just your journey to become a life purpose coach and why that direction of how you want to support women.
Yes. So basically, before I created my business, I was in the world of wine. I was a marketing director in the fine wine industry. So I did a traditional career, very successful career. Very quickly, I became a marketing director. I was 32 years old. So that's quite rare. Normally, people become a marketing director in their 40s, in their 50s. So basically, my path was, I had a very successful path in marketing. And at some point, I think around my 30s, I started feeling like, "Ah, it's not this, you know? I had always had that drive, that energy. And at some point, it went away. And I think it was around the time where I started becoming more and more conscious. During COVID, as many people, I spent a lot of time on my own. I had already a practice of meditation and yoga. So during COVID, I was on my own and I basically meditated nonstop for 3 months, did yoga nonstop for 3 months. So I was basically in a retreat on my own for 3 months. And basically, from the back of that, something happened and my consciousness expanded. So I think up until that point, I had always crafted my path thinking, what's more interesting for me? What's more important for me? How am I going to make money? How am I going to have fun? But at that point, when my consciousness became bigger, I started thinking in terms of we, and not only we like friends and family, we as a planet. I started thinking, okay, but what is the impact for the planet? What am I actually doing for the planet? The whole perspective became a lot bigger. So I realized that what I was doing in the world of wine, which is gorgeous, sophisticated, blah, 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 but it's still poison, was not necessarily the best for the world. It was not necessarily the best use of my talents, from my brain, my emotions, my creativity. It was not the best use of this resource here on earth. So basically, I decided I was lost for 2 years. I was still in my marketing director role, lots of pressure, lots of responsibility. But I knew that wasn't my place anymore. And I was trying to find myself. So I tried basically everything that I could find under the sun, from astrology, human design. I even tried ayahuasca. Like, I went all in. I was like, I'm going to find my purpose. Why did I came to earth? Who am I? Why did I came to earth? So I was on this journey, very, very, very lost for 2 years. I tried everything, all of the spiritual things that I could find, all of the information that I could get from different modalities. I tried them all the ones that I knew back then that existed. I've tried them. And basically, from the back of that discovery that I had to do on my own, because back then I didn't find a life purpose coach who could support me on that journey, who could provide a structure, who could tell me, okay, we're going to do this and this and this exercise. I'm going to help you map out this and this and this, and these are the ideas and these are the things that you could do. I didn't find it back then. So I had to do that journey on my own. And basically, it took a long time. Eventually, I found something, and it was this thing: coaching women, helping them be happier, creating a better world. It didn't have all the details and the fine tune that it has today, but the main blocks were there: coaching women, helping them be happier, changing the world. And that hasn't changed. Things have evolved and refined over the years, but the fundamentals of what I do are the same. So I found my purpose. It was this thing, I wanted to coach women, help them be happier. Back then, it was help them be happier. It wasn't helping them find their purpose. So I slowly began to articulate things as time evolved, as I evolved, and as I understood also the demand for different things, etc. So basically, I found my purpose, and there I was holding these two things on my plate: my very demanding marketing director role, and then this passion, this fire, this thirst that I had inside of me. So basically, what I did was, for 1 year, I started building my business on the side. So basically, I would close my work laptop, and then on the evenings, on the weekends, work on my vision, work on this business. And it was a very intense year. I'm not going to lie. It was very hard because it was many, many hours working. And I used to have, and I have now, a very good life balance, but that year was out of balance, but it was for a good cause. So that 1 year, I set up all the foundations. I did everything. Also, I put all of my finances in place. I wanted to save we can talk about that, but I gave myself a lot of safety in order to do that, because I was so scared of leaving my job. I had, as I said, a very successful career, a 6-figure salary. I just had to switch from one job to the other, get promotions, and my life was set. So it was very scary to say, you know what? Now I want to do this new thing. It felt like I was on this highway rolling on a Mercedes. And then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I want to check that waterfall because it sounds really, really cool. And I want to check what's in the waterfall. And I had no idea if there was actually a waterfall, if the waterfall was nice. It was hard to get from the highway because I was already rolling. So eventually, I did that. I provided safety for myself. I had savings for many, many months, for 18 months, to be honest. And I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try for 12 months. I have saving for 18 months. So I gave myself a lot of safety because my biggest fear was, am I going to be able to survive financially if I do this? And this fear comes up a lot. Is this viable financially? And then this sense of safety and security that we all need. Am I going to be able to survive if I follow this dream? So I gave myself 1 year. I prepared everything. I set up my business on the side. I prepared my finances for this leap of faith. And then eventually I did it. That was October 2023. And yeah, it's going to be now 2 years that Dobby is free. Free from the corporate world. And yeah, so the business has 3 years, 2 years working full time on the business. And yeah, and now it continues to grow and I continue to support women. And I decided, because first, when I started coaching, I was doing many different things. I was doing life coaching. So we could talk about career, we could talk about love, we could talk about health, we could talk about spirituality. And I started having this influx of women that were inspired by my own story. Women, for example, that were working at Louis Vuitton and they wanted to quit their fancy job and now set up their business in art. A doctor who wants to heal in a different way through yoga. These kind of fantastic women who were doing really, really cool things, successful things in a way, but they wanted to do something entirely different because their soul was really pulling them in another direction. So these kind of women started coming into my world and I was like, oh my God, I love working with these type of women. I love supporting them on this specific journey in finding their purpose, because I think it's actually the deepest question a human can ask themselves. It's a philosophical question. It's a spiritual question. It touches your identity. It touches so many layers. And I love depth. I love good challenge. So I was like, I love working with this type of women. I love supporting them in this specific topic. And that's why I went from like life coaching, spirituality in general into life purpose coaching. There's still a lot of spirituality because I think that's where we get the information basically. Who are we? What are we here to do? We need to tap into our intuition. We need to be in contact with our spirituality. Maybe some other coaches have another way of doing things. I believe that we need to be in contact with the soul, with the intuition, and then we can use our minds to create something that makes sense in the 3D world. But we need to be in contact with our intuition, with our soul. So there's still a lot of spirituality. There's still a lot of manifestation, which I deeply believe, and it's helped me manifest and create so many things. A lot of cutting edge mindset work, and women can now find their purpose in 4 months. So what took me 2 years of being lost, trying absolutely everything under the sun, now I created a structured approach. In 4 months you go from I'm lost, I don't know what to do, or I know what to do but it's not going to work, to this is what I want and I'm going to do it, and these are the milestones that I need to hit in order to create that dream and make it a reality.
I love the evolution because there's so many similarities in our path too, which I know we had discussed on your podcast too, of just coming from corporate, being scared to leave all the comforts of it, the safety, the security, the benefits, the salary, and really taking that big leap. But then also like the evolution as a coach, now I'm 5 years into my business and I notice a lot of those same things of it started off as health coaching, is generally whatever health coaching, health things that you want to work on. And now it's really gotten like fine tuned. It's like, this is my method and this is what I help women with. And now it's actually taking a really interesting turn because a lot of my clients or a lot of people that have come into my world over the past few years, like they are business owners that want to create something business, want to start a business and want to create like a soul aligned business. And so just by nature of the people coming into my world, I'm starting to coach more on business and like how I created my business. And the same thing goes with relationships. A lot of people have come into my world around with relationship coaching needs, and I really have that as like a whole part of my program too. So it's really
Mm,
interesting that the clients and the people that you work with just start to influence your programs more and more, and then you start to get super super clear of like, oh, this is exactly the transformation that I can give. And it really comes with like, you do have to kind of cast a wide net at first, right, and then start to slowly really like drill down into like, this is the method. And I love that
right.
you're like, you can find your purpose in 4 months. You can fast track it because you've done a lot of that heavy lifting of like trial and error and let's figure this out and figure that out. So that's really beautiful that all the work that you're doing as a life purpose coach, that just has the ripple effect, right? Like you said at the
Mm.
beginning, it's like happier people, more aligned people, more fulfilled people, just has that ripple effect outward as well. So one of the things that has come up also in my, programs, is a whole actually part of what I talk about in my programs is around money and money mindset.
Mm.
And a lot of time, I think there is a myth, especially in the wellness, the wellness space, that if you're doing this type of work as a coach, as a healer, as a teacher, a guide, that you can't also be like compensated for it in the way that maybe other industries are. And so you said that in the beginning, income and impact, and also being
Mm.
able to sort of dispel that mindset that it has to be separate, right? Making an impact and also getting, a big income as well. So in the life purpose coaching, when did money come up for you? When did that become like something that you want to lean into, create courses around? Like, how did that evolve?
Mm. So basically, when I was in the corporate world, because we learn our money mindset and we learn our attachment style with money. There's an attachment style with money, just as we have with a partner, there's an attachment style with money. So we pick up on that attachment style and we pick up on the money mindset between ages 0 to 7. And then basically we live our lives. And sometimes we don't realize that some phrases, some beliefs, some things that we've picked up when we were children, when we were in a state of hypnosis and our parents maybe we heard a conversation about money, and then we formed a belief. And those things come and walk with us, and we don't even realize that they're actually there. So I think when I was in the corporate world, I didn't realize that I had like some blocks around money, some money mindset issues, etc. And I was very protected. I always had my salary. I was getting promotions, switching from one job to the other. I didn't realize that I had to look into my money mindset. But when I decided that I wanted to set up my own business, and this fear, the main fear that I had, it wasn't a fear of failure. I wasn't afraid of, okay, what if I try something and it doesn't work out? What am I going to think of myself? I was like, I'm just going to think that I tried my best, I did my best, and that I tried, I gave it a try. What are other people going to think? I didn't really care. I'm quite free. I'm quite open spirited. I don't care what other people think. I do my own thing. And I hope that by doing my own thing, people are going to be inspired or rejected from my world. And basically, there wasn't a fear of failure. There wasn't a fear of success. I was really thirsty for success, but there was this financial fear. It was like, as I said, what if it doesn't work out? So I started diving into my money mindset to prepare for this change that I knew was going to happen. And I realized that I had this limiting belief that I had to choose between money and spirituality. Because my whole transformation came from spirituality, it came from a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, an expanded consciousness. It came from something really noble, really beautiful. And I was like, but how am I going to translate all of this beauty and spirituality into money that it's like dirty and bad and corrupt? So I had in my mind back then, of course, now it's not the same, but back then it was, I need to choose between money and spirituality. I can either have a job that pays me a lot of money, but there's no purpose in it, or a job, a business that has a lot of purpose, but doesn't pay so much money. Will pay some money, but not so much money. So the limiting belief was you need to choose between purpose and money. And this belief comes up a lot, and I see it now a lot on clients who think that they need to choose between money and spirituality. And also, it can happen for artists. We need to choose between money and art because there's so many stories of struggling artists, and there's kind of like this glorification of the struggling artist. So we feel like we need to choose between money and spirituality or money and art, depending on what we choose. But on the wellness space and on the artistic space, it comes up a lot. And basically, by diving into my money mindset, I realized this is actually a limiting belief. I get to have both. I get to have purpose and profit. I get to have income and impact. Of course, this happened at a subconscious level. We need to work at a subconscious level, rewire all of that through hypnosis, through meditations, through affirmations, affirmations, embodiment, a bunch of tools that we can use. But eventually, you convince your subconscious mind that you can actually have both and that you deserve both and that it's only inevitable. That's the nice point. When you get into it, is actually inevitable for me to have both. That's when you've made the actual transformation. If your subconscious mind believes that this must happen, it will happen at some point, and then you detach and it happens. So it was kind of a journey to diving into my money mindset, looking into the blocks that I found in there, rewiring all of that. And then basically every time I do something, I'm quite intense about things. So I'm born on the 22nd of October. So I'm a cusp between Libra and Scorpio. So I'm very Libra for many things, but sometimes you can see my Scorpio. And basically when I'm interested in a topic, I go all in, very intense, kind of like obsessively into a topic. Kind of like what I did with purpose. It was afterwards, it was like, okay, money mindset, boom. Okay, let's learn from everybody. Let's take all of these courses, boom, 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 boom. So I dive in for very, very good amount of time. I took several courses, learned from best coaches out there. And basically I reframed and changed all of these things for myself. First, it was for me to be able to hold a business that would be sustainable. And I was deeply convinced, I knew within myself, money mindset is the thing that will make or break my business. because our beliefs create a reality. So I knew that I had to have my beliefs on point to create the reality that I actually wanted to see. So I went into that journey for my own interest. But then I started talking to some people, about the things that I was learning, some friends who were coaches, etc. And I got opportunities to start speaking about this topic from all of the things that I had learned. And basically, I had opportunities to give master classes, for example, for Female Invest, which is a company that educates women in their finances. I was already part of Female Invest. I was learning for my own finances, and I gave master classes for this community. And they have, I think, now more than 10,000 members in the community, 70,000 members in the community. So it's a huge community of women who want to learn about money, finances, money mindset. And basically, the universe just started guiding me. These opportunities opened up. I gave 2 conferences for Female Invest, and then a bunch of women started coming into my world, asking for this topic, asking for guidance on this topic. And first, I created some private coaching so I could support women on their specific journey. And then I realized, like, okay, the same topics are kind of coming over and over and over again. There's some big lines here. So then I decided to create a group program, which is called Wealth Codes, where we dive into, there's 9 weeks, we dive into the 9 modules, the 9 topics that usually they always come up, basically. So we dive into our attachment style with money. So whether we have an anxious, an avoidant, or a secure attachment style with money, we dive into masculine and feminine energy in relationship to money. We dive into limiting beliefs. We dive into difficult emotions like shame, guilt, resentment, frustration, anger around money. We dive into manifestation. So first we kind of like heal, clean everything that needs to be healed. And then we dive into money manifestation. How do we attract more money, create new income streams? So it's a very, very exciting program. Women are in the program right now and they are loving the experience. But it came from really listening. It came from the universe opening doors naturally for me and listening to what women were already asking for. And again, my mission is to make women happier. And I do believe that money is part of happiness. There's also a limiting belief that says money doesn't buy happiness. But actually, money allows you to create your own version of happiness. So for you to be in WAM, living your purpose, having your business, supporting your child, living with your husband, the fantastic life in WAM, all of these things require money, right? I'm in Paris with my fiance now, having a business, helping women, wanting to help more and more women. All of these things require money. So money allows us to create our own definition of happiness. And so by supporting women in their money mindset journey, I'm convinced that it's a way of allowing them to be happier because then they can invest that money in whatever is most important for them, their families, their business, a home that provides security for them. So money supports happiness, and I want to support women in being happier. So supporting them with money it's natural.
Yeah, and I'm sure you work with such a wide range of, different types of women that come in, but a lot of, my interest in money mindset really was only sparked when I became an entrepreneur because it did like everything came up to the surface. So I remember working with one of my first business coaches and she really anchored it. I was really nervous to raise my prices. I felt like I had to be very, accessible to everyone and lowest price or offer things for free and discounting and just that whole journey of raising my prices with the more experience I had was like a really big thing that came up in that coaching. And that sparked really this interest of like, what is my money story? And what fears do I have around accessibility? And what does that look like for me? And I remember she
Mm.
said to me one session, she was like, if you are not well resourced, none of this gets done, right? If you keep doing everything for free or discounted or like really bare minimum, you're going to burn out and then nothing happens, right? But she was also like, the more experience that you get, the more transformations that you have with clients, like that is worth more than if you're just getting started your first couple months. And so I did a lot of money mindset work unexpectedly when I
Mhm.
became an entrepreneur because it was just coming to the surface with these decisions that we had to make. So when I know some people listening are familiar with attachment styles, but you did mention just how you have relationship attachment styles, you have money attachment style. So I would love to hear a little bit about, maybe for those unfamiliar with what an attachment style is, what comes up for you with that? And do you notice that women tend to have are more people in one style than the other from the
Yes.
groups that you're seeing?
Yes. So I think also I want to touch on something before we dive into this. I totally resonate with you because when you start a business, it's a spiritual adventure, right? Just as a relationship is a very big mirror and we work on a lot of things with a partner. When you have a business, all of these things are coming to the surface. So money mindset will definitely come up to the surface because one way or the other, maybe you end up manifesting, I don't know, clients that default on payments, or your prices are too low and people are still arguing and they're not buying. So all of these things that start appearing on the reality, the good news is that the good and the bad news is that we are generating those. So we can look into our money mindset, change the beliefs, change the narrative, and then change the reality. But having a business will bring all of this to the surface. And then regarding the attachment styles, yes, there's effectively three attachment styles. So when we think about relationships, in a romantic relationship, we have the anxious attachment style, which is the person that is afraid that the partner will abandon them. So they tend to cling. They tend to be very anxious if the other person, there's a little distance with the other person. Maybe the person is busy. So we tend to cling and we tend to be there. And we're very afraid that the other person will leave. So with money, it's kind of like the same. When we have the anxious attachment style, we don't trust money. We don't trust the money to always be there for us, like a life partner would always be there for us. So we tend to be clingy with money. We tend to be very anxious. And what this can look like on very practical terms is, for example, women that are checking their bank accounts multiple times a day. I even had some extreme cases of women who are waking up in the middle of the night to check if the money is still there, to check if the money isn't gone. So those were some really extreme cases, but some more common cases are women who are always checking the bank account, checking if the money is there, checking if the payment came through, checking if it's happening or not. So there's this very clingy energy with money. And it's because we don't trust money deep down, and we're afraid that money is going to go away and never come back to us. On the other hand, when we think of the romantic relationships, we have the avoidant attachment style. These people are afraid, in terms of their romantic relationship, they're afraid of being engulfed with the other person. When things get too, quote unquote, too intimate for them, it's just intimate, but it feels like too intimate for them, they tend to run away because it's too much intimacy, and that intimacy doesn't feel safe. So they tend to run away from that partner. Now, in money, what this looks like is that money feels like a source of tension. Money doesn't feel safe. So, what we do is, instead of clinging like the avoidant, we run away. So, what people with an avoidant attachment style will do is they are not looking at their bank accounts. If they have debts, they have no clue how much is the total debt. They have several debts. It can be quite chaotic. They have no clue of how much money is in their accounts, how much money is if they have debts. There is no control over the money. So the anxious attachment style has a lot of control, too much control. And then this one has no control. It's very chaotic. The core issue is, and why they're doing this, is because money doesn't feel safe. So this topic doesn't feel safe, so we just don't go into that topic. In some extreme cases, again, some women who had lots of debt and they had no clue about the amount, or they had several calls from people who were claiming money back and they weren't even answering all of those calls. So it can get very, very messy, very, very chaotic. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because what we avoid, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then in the middle, where the place where we would all like to be, ideally, and with some work, and the place where we can all be with some money mindset work is the secure attachment style. So basically, in a relationship, if we think about a long term partner, we think about a husband or a long term partner, a husband, a wife, whatever we choose, we are going to be with that person for this whole lifetime, ideally. And basically, there's going to be some times where there's a little bit more distance, a little bit more connection, but we still trust that that person will always be there for us. We trust that if we have a health issue, that person will be there for us. We trust that if they're not replying to that text, whatever, they're just busy working or they're having fun with their friends, let them have fun, and then they come back to you super happy, joyful because they did something that they loved and now they're super happy coming back to you. So with money, it's exactly the same. We want to get into a point where in the relationship it's really healthy and we see money as a life partner, a husband, a wife, or our best friend. So basically, there's times when we can get very, very close. There's times when we can have a little bit more distance, but there's this deep trust that allows that flexibility. So we feel safe enough to go and look into the numbers and plan and dream big with our numbers. And then we can also, we trust that, okay, maybe we had to make a big down payment for something. We trust that this money it's going to come back multiplied. So that's the sweet spot where we would all like to be. So from my experience, it's usually a 40% of people who are in the anxious. So there's more people in the anxious attachment style. And then I would say 30 in the secure and 30 in the avoidant. But I've noticed that there's more women, at least I work with women, more women who are in the anxious one and less in the secure and avoidant ones.
So interesting to look at it, to think about how those, because as I was mentioning before, like a lot of work I've been doing lately with clients is around relationships, but then to look at how those attachment styles then relate to money is huge.
Mm.
And I have when you're explaining like what this looks like, I can totally see those. Like I know people who are in those certain different styles, and
Oh, yes.
such a helpful lens to look at money through. So for those who are listening, what are you? Right? Think about which one you like relate to. If there's one that's that really stands out as like that is me.
Mm.
So I would love to dig in a little bit to one of the things I've noticed with money mindset is there are definitely the practical sides, right? Things that you can do to work on your money mindset, things you can do to have a more a healthier relationship with money. But then there's also just the energetics of money too, right? And
Mm.
sometimes people they even think about financial wellness and they're really thinking of that practical side. And then the more sort of, alternative views of money and is more on the energetic side. But I know that you really marry the two. So I would love to know just for people listening that are like, yeah, I really want to start looking at my money, my wealth, both practically as well as energetically. What are some ways, practices, things, tips that you can give for
Mm.
both of those sides?
Yes. So when it comes to money, we can also think about the masculine energy and the feminine energy. We, of course, and everybody in this community probably knows, all of us, no matter our gender, we have both energies. And ideally, we want to have this in balance in our lives. And the same thing applies to money. So basically, when we think about the masculine energy, it's the planning ahead of time. It's the direction, setting a vision, taking action, committing to something and really doing what you said you were going to do, taking those aligned actions day by day. So when we want to cultivate a relationship with money, some people are going to tend to be either more on the feminine or more on the masculine side of things. So we need to eventually find that balance between both of them. If we look into the feminine side of things, in relationship to money, we need to be able to receive. And many times you would be surprised how difficult it can be for people to receive. So we can cultivate this receiving by just letting other people do minor things for us. For example, you are on a plane and someone wants to support you and just carry your luggage and put it in there, instead of being, like the independent girly, no, I've got this, I'm going to do it on my own, just receive that support with a smile and say thank you. Or if someone gives you a compliment, just say thank you. If someone says, oh, that t-shirt is very nice, thank you. Yeah, it's really nice, huh? Instead of saying, oh no, it's just something that I got, it was so cheap, now I just have it for 3 years. Or instead of saying, yeah, your t-shirt is also super nice. So we're not receiving the compliment, we're actually giving another compliment. So the feminine energy, it's all about receiving. So we need to cultivate that. And it sounds simple, but it can be quite hard sometimes if we have accustomed ourselves to be this very self-sufficient, independent woman that can do it all and doesn't need anybody. And then other parts of the feminine energy, it's this ability to trust our intuition. We can develop our intuition, be in contact with our soul, with our intuition, and just try to receive guidance. What's the best next step for example, for my business? What's the best next step to deal with some situation at work, to deal and get this promotion? We can use our feminine powers, like intuition, also to get new ideas. I'm going to create this new thing and let's see how it goes. And also the ability to sometimes surrender and go with the flow and be okay with the ebbs and the flow that money can sometimes have. We don't need to control it all like the masculine energy would want to. We can sometimes flow, let it be within certain parameters. So it's also something safe. But it tends to happen that we can either be too much on our masculine from the clients that I work with. Sometimes people, for example, can be in their masculine a lot. So they're doing, they're planning, they're executing, the finances are under control. Maybe they have a secure or an anxious attachment style. So things are under control. But then it's really hard for them to receive the miracle, the unexpected money that appears, and to be open to that and to be grateful for that and really admit that maybe we can receive money without doing anything, just because we are. And we're using our feminine magnetism and our energy to attract money and opportunities towards us without necessarily doing things. And then on the other side, there's also some people who are going to have a lot more feminine energy. So basically, what this looks like is that they're going with the flow, they trust the universe, everything is going to be okay, but the finances are a mess. They have no clue about the numbers. Maybe they have also an avoidant attachment style, and things are completely very, very chaotic. So they don't feel safe because it's too much chaos, too much unhealed feminine energy. So ideally, we want to plan, take action, take aligned action, but also leave some room for the opportunities to drop in, for the universe to surprise us with something that we weren't expecting, and to be there and to be like, thank you. Of course, it makes sense for me to receive this. Of course. So, and just thank you with a smile. And then you don't need to do anything. You just smile. That's it. So yeah.
It's such a balance, like that balance of the masculine and feminine in money and finances. I think about, I talk to my clients a lot about creating these like money dates with yourself, right? Time to spend money, or spending time with your money, and kind of making it this relationship, this experience with it, not shying away from it, knowing what's in your, account, setting up the things, the systems that make it feel safe. But then I noticed that it really is like that feminine trust, receiving, expanding your capacity to receive. Like that is some of the hardest work, right? Because we can do and do and do and checklist, spreadsheet our way through anything. That being able to receive, and even just noticing like limiting beliefs around, which you had mentioned earlier, like there is the fear of failure, but there can also be the fear of success, and like how that impacts your ability to receive money. And it's tied so much, into our money stories and just what we've seen and experienced along the way. So
Mhm.
one of the things that has helped me is grounding in, certain affirmations or even mantras of like, okay, when I have a tough money experience, or, when I need to come back to to my relationship with money, here are some like kind of grounding phrases or mantras that I can use. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you have a bunch, but the one that always comes back to me is just this idea that it's already on its way, right? Like
Yeah.
it's already on its way back to me. Like the more that I invest in myself, it just cycles back. It's that really that trust that like it's already on its way. I heard one of my coaches say like there's more where that came from. That's
Yeah.
one of her
Yes.
like mantras. And I thought, yeah, there's more of where that came from. It's already on this way, like that abundance mindset. So for you, what kind of mantras, phrases, affirmations, what do you come back to as like a
Yes.
way to ground this
Yes.
work?
So to me, affirmations have really worked. So for example, when I make any kind of, especially big payments, but also it can be a small payment, I always like to remind myself these phrases, there's more where that came from, or this money, this every euro I spend, because I live in Europe, every euro I spend comes back to me multiplied. And I actually imagine, this is actually a nice trick, that for example, instead of paying $60, 60 euros, that you're receiving times 10. So it's like when you put your card or your phone, you're getting 600 instead of you putting 60, for example. So you're like, oh, so this actually feels nice. I'm actually receiving money. So you kind of trick your brain into believing that you're actually receiving that money. Um, some phrases, for me, a phrase that really hits home because it came after a lot of work. It's abundance is here and it's here to stay. Because I discovered this with a lot of subconscious reprogramming, but one of my fears was that I would make all this money, become a millionaire, and then lose it. So my subconscious mind was protecting me from that loss. So this phrase abundance is here and it's here to stay, that brings a lot of peace and regulation. So affirmations are really good. Ask affirmations are also really good. I don't know if you knew about this, but you can ask yourself, why am I so successful? Why is my business always flourishing? Why do I have so many clients? Why are my services in such demand? How am I so, I don't know, how am I so creative? Whatever. So any phrase that starts with why, insert whatever you want, or how, insert whatever you want. And basically what happens is that the subconscious mind, when you say an affirmation, for example, if you say, I am a millionaire, I am a billionaire, your subconscious mind, it's like, okay, girl, like, who are you kidding? Like, we know that we're not that yet. So, but when you say an ask affirmation, the subconscious mind needs to give you an answer every time you ask a question. So it doesn't have time to think, is this true or not? It needs to be finding reasons for why this is true. Because you've asked, why am I so lucky? So then the brain is not thinking, am I lucky? Am I not lucky? It's thinking, okay, yeah, this is happening in my business. This is happening with my partner. This is, da, 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 da. I see you're super lucky. So the brain needs to answer. So ask affirmations really work, especially when an affirmation feels a little bit difficult. Or you don't believe it yet, you can start with an ask affirmation and then eventually move into the affirmations. Something that also really, really works for me is EFT tapping, because many times when we're talking about money, we can be dysregulated. So doing a short 5 minutes EFT tapping session, it works wonders. Or before you start your day and you know you're going to be talking a lot about money and dealing with money, blah, 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 you regulate yourself. Or before you make a big investment or a big purchase, you regulate yourself. So the important thing is that every time we make circulate money, especially big amounts, we want to regulate ourselves with EFT tapping. We want to regulate ourselves with meditation, put ourselves in a really nice vibe, nice music, really abundant music that makes you feel on top of the world and on top of your money. And then you make the investments, the purchase, whatever you're going to do. So that has really worked for me. And then embodiment, understanding, okay, who is this woman? What is she doing? How is she speaking? What are the phrases? This I'm like very, very, very careful for myself. Which are the phrases that you would never hear her say? So for the listeners, the millionaire version of you, the billionaire version of you, the successful version of you, whatever you dream for yourself, she would never say, oh, this is too expensive. She would never say this is too expensive. Maybe it is, for example, if we think about a car, let's think about Mercedes, for example. Yes, the price, it is quite pricey, right? But that version of you would say expensive. It would say it's a luxury car. I like to say it's a nice car. So nice car implies luxury car. It's a premium car. But if you're saying it's expensive, you're telling your subconscious mind that you cannot get it. When you say it's luxurious, it's premium, it's a nice restaurant, it's a nice car, you're saying, yes, it's pricey, but also if I want it, I could get it. So I'm very careful, very picky with the words. The word expensive, I'm just saying it for the purposes of this podcast, but then it is banned from my vocabulary. Any kind of phrase that I can't afford, any kind of those phrases, I'm broke. It's never been the case. I've never been in that situation, but any of those negative phrases forbidden. But we need to be very, very careful with our language, because our words create our reality as well. Our thoughts create our words create a reality. So we need to be very careful. So there are some things that that version of you is saying, or she's not saying. So try to find, like, those words. Hear your own conversations in your mind, hear what you say to other people, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Listen to what other people say about money, and then you can start reframing. For example, one reframe also in terms of vocabulary, instead of saying, for example, a friend invites you to go on a dinner or on a trip, and you look into your account and you're like, okay, right now I cannot do that trip or that dinner, whatever the situation might be. So instead of saying to your friend, no, I can't go because I can't afford it, you can say, you know what, this trip is not a priority for me right now because I'm focused on this and that and that and the other thing. I want to spend time with you, but why don't we go just for coffee instead of a dinner? Or why don't we do this other trip instead of the other trip? So when you say I can't afford it, it's like you're using a spell and you're casting scarcity into your reality. But if you say, you know what, this is not a priority for me right now because I want to buy a home and that's my financial priority. It's not a trip, it's buying a home. Then you're still in control. And even when you say the phrase, you feel it in your body. If you say I can't afford, it's like, okay, the shoulders are down, like it feels kind of like sad. But if you say, it's not a priority, I want to buy a home, you feel uplifted by the other thing that you want to do. You're still on top of your finances, on top of your money game. So we need to be very careful with our words, and all of the words that are casting scarcity, lack, we change them and we only cast abundance, flow. We only cast good things in our life.
So much wisdom that you are dropping in this episode. I know that the wellness community is just going to be taking notes, like so many good nuggets in here. And gosh, I could talk to you for so long. So I will wrap it up because I do want to share how people can work with you, because I'm sure people are listening are like, I need more of that. So tell us a little bit about, I know you live in Europe, but you support clients all over the world, but what are the main ways that people can work with you if they really want to get into this work?
Yes. So basically, I have two programs that I would recommend. If they want to work on finding their purpose, I have a private, so one-on-one program for 4 months, and then they can find their purpose in 4 months following this structured approach. And this program is called Path to Purpose. And then if you want to learn about finances, I have this program. It's a 9-week course, which is called Wealth Codes. And this is a group program that you're going to do with other fantastic women that also want to work on their money mindset. So for that one, you can register yourself on the wait list. And then the next time I open a round, because it's a group, so I open rounds every couple of months. The next time I open the next round, if you're on the wait list, you will be the first to receive the information. So you can be in there for the next round. But those are the two: Path to Purpose and Wealth Codes.
Amazing. And I will drop all of your information, your podcast, Instagram, website, all the things in the show notes so that people can find you. But I want to thank you for share. This was so great to connect. We've only met on the internet. We haven't met in person yet, but now being on each other's podcasts, I feel like I've gotten to know so much about your life and your journey, and just the amazing work that you're doing, bringing Blisstopia to life. Right? It's so inspiring. So thank you again for making the time.
Thank you so much for bringing me to the show. And I think I'm going to add into one of my manifestations to eventually be in WAM, eventually be in one of your retreats. I would love that. So that would be really nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please rate and review, and don't forget to subscribe. Learn more at enowellnesscollective.com and connect with us on Instagram at enowellnesscollective.